Good morning, fellow Bitcoiners. To introduce myself, my name is Pawan and I am the co-founder of CRXzone.com, a order book exchange and a merchant payment gateway operated from Singapore. I shall be covering in details the adoption of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency in Asian region, and I'm expecting all the participants here are familiar with cryptocurrencies, especially the Bitcoin. What the people and government think Bitcoin is. To rehash a common point, Bitcoin is a virtual currency with a bidirectional flow, meaning fiat currencies like US dollar, euro, Japanese yen, etc. can be traded for Bitcoin and back on various exchange sites using market-driven exchange rate, of course. Some of the government body define it as a commodity while others give it a name as virtual currency. I'll rather say it's best defined as virtual commodity, mostly being used as a money instrument. If you ask anybody what are the obstacles rallied up against mainstream Bitcoin adoption, and you will get almost a similar response: regulatory uncertainty, financial system integration, and technical complexities. Those are the most common complaints that I hear from the industry folks. But from an average consumer standpoint, I don't think anything block Bitcoin chain adoption more than constantly fluctuating exchange rates. Bitcoin $5 billion market cap is just not large enough to stabilize its exchange rate yet, and will probably remain so for the next 3 to 5 years. The Bitcoin ecosystem is currently enjoying a strong growth prospect worldwide, especially in the Asia Pacific. While Bitcoin can and will succeed in the long run, expect the sector to endure several market shocks over the next decade, as the market and ecosystems are still not matured. For example, if you look at a recent temporary shock, comes from the announcement that US Marshals Services will auction off 50,000 BTC seized from LS Silk Road mastermind Rose Alberg. And the price of the Bitcoin was affected by that. Just a single news. 2004 has seen the rapid progress of Bitcoin from the collapse of the bubble earlier in 2014, where the price dropped dramatically, to its adoption by global technology firms like PayPal, Expedia, Dell, Overstocks. Governments are working very closely to regulate the industry and issue some sort of license for cryptocurrency businesses. Let's talk about Bitcoin real life use in Asian economies. Adoption of Bitcoin by retail outlet and online e-commerce. Within the last few years, the Bitcoin ecosystem went from being a darling of the computer technicals to the mainstream media and back to the consumer in terms of being accepted as an investment opportunity, major retail outlet, and online e-commerce giant across the world. In Asia, the adoption of Bitcoin by retail outlet and online e-commerce giants is very slow compared to the US and UK. For example, if you look at the overstock sales, it's in millions of dollars per year, while there's no Asian company which even has a five-figure sales in Bitcoin. Big hope was shattered when division of Beidou and China Telecom, two of the best known names in Chinese internet and telecommunication, removed references to Bitcoin payment from their sites last year about the same time in December. Low cost cross border mode of payment. Bitcoin ecosystem grew into the real life of Asian users as a low cost cross border mode of payment. The debate about Bitcoin has changed from its viability as a currency to the utilities of Bitcoin against other payment systems. For example, now the mainstream media talks about how inexpensive it could be to make a transaction in Bitcoin compared to other online payment systems like Visa or MasterCard or wallet provider such as PayPal. Individual and online business are using Bitcoin extensively as a mode of payment for their micro and major payments because of the low cost and speed of payment is almost instant. For example, if you are making payment across region for 10 to 100 USD, you may end up paying 20 to 30 USD as bank charges with a time frame of 1 to 2 working days with the conventional system. While Bitcoin based system can do this with a cost of just 2 or 3 USD fee and the payment are almost instant. Remittance services. Another very strong use of Bitcoin in some of the Asian region is in remittance services. The demand for remittance services is increasing since 2009. Cross-border remittance in the Philippines has grown by 40%, says Ron Shavlin, a senior analyst at Aid Group. In Southeast Asia, in general, cross-border remittance has grown by 48%, he says. Economy like the Philippines, Indonesia, Central Asia, and other emerging economies around the region have large expatriate diaspora that need a cheaper mechanism to remit money home, as well as large segment of their population that are unbanked and unserved by conventional banking infrastructure, as in Myanmar. The growing use of Bitcoin technology in emerging economies has the potential to transform the economies, market, and payment infrastructure. Bitcoin and the ecosystem surrounding it, as well as the emerging industries, can and will do many things of payment system and banking infrastructure in the growth market of Asia Pacific from Tokyo to Dubai. Trading of Bitcoin by individual and sophisticated investor. The last Bitcoin, which is capped at a total supply of 21 million Bitcoin, will be generated approximately around year 2140. The Bitcoin protocol specifies that the reward for adding a block will be halved approximately every 4 years. Bitcoin limited supply and wide range of daily fluctuations makes a compelling reason for many individual and sophisticated investors to regularly trade in Bitcoin. Trading in cryptocurrency is deeply adopted by the Asians. Chinese exchanges alone account for more than 50% of the world Bitcoin daily trading volume. All the countries in Asian region now has at least one or more Bitcoin order book exchange or exchanges to deal fiat currency against cryptocurrency and vice versa. Bitcoin should not be seen as investment on daily horizon, rather years. Reid Hoffman, the executive VP of PayPal and founder of LinkedIn, has already articulated that it's more a question of a 3 to 5 year horizon, not a daily horizon. Currently, Bitcoin has a collective market capitalization of USD 5 billion plus, with 13.57 million Bitcoin currently in circulation. That market capitalization will only increase if we can capitalize on the growth opportunities presented in the Asia Pacific. Bitcoin technology potentials. But rather than focusing on the investment and trading aspect of Bitcoin, more business need to exploit the potential of the blockchain, the distributed consensus technology under Bitcoin, which allows transaction to be securely stored and verified without any centralized authorities. Instead of being validated by the entire network, side chains or all chains are an extension of this. Other applications like smart contract, distributed autonomous corporation, and cryptographic digest of contracts like proof of existence also hold great potential. All in all, the blockchain application stack is ripe for further exploration and development. Unfortunately, not many Asian companies are working on this aspect of Bitcoin technology. Bitcoin opponent and critics, including national government and established bank, face a dilemma. Many governments do not recognize Bitcoin as a legal tender. If Bitcoin is not a currency and has no intrinsic value, how do you regulate it? And more tellingly, how do you enforce these regulations? Attempts to ban or otherwise regulate virtual currencies are not just fundamentally mistaken but futile as well. Government regulation and intervention is not intrinsically evil or dangerous to the ecosystem, but the financial world is littered with examples of fraud and theft. Silk Road website is a live example where criminal elements have used it as an untraceable method to buy and sell drugs and other illegal goods. Governments have a duty to protect the interests of consumers against criminal and irresponsible businesses. So some legally enshrined protection is probably warranted. And to be fair, most countries around the world seems to be doing just that, especially Australia and Singapore in the Asia Pacific region. In the Asian region, so far the Singapore government has the most clear and business friendly policies. Singapore tax authorities has clearly laid out taxation rules at their website which will govern transactions made in the virtual currencies. Singapore Central Bank also expect Bitcoin businesses to do the KYC for their customer to avoid fraud and money laundering. China's central bank has reacted to Bitcoin development by demanding that third-party payment platforms stop providing clearing services to Bitcoin and other virtual currencies. That makes the adoption difficult for investors, merchants, and Bitcoin businesses in China, and many are exploring options to relocate their business. Countries like India, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Japan, Vietnam, etc. has warned users about the security and financial risks it sees in the Bitcoin currency. However, these governments have stated that as of now, it has no official plans to regulate the Bitcoin. Some of the Asian countries like India, capital control regulations makes it compulsory that Bitcoin can only be purchased or sold within the country's residents. Singapore perhaps has one of the clearest set of regulation on Bitcoin in the world, while other Asian governments still have a wait and watch approach on Bitcoin. That's the reason more and more Bitcoin businesses prefer to operate their companies in Singapore. That brings me to the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, or you can visit the booth of crxzone.com and we will be more than happy to answer your queries. Thanks a lot.